Hi guys, Z here. Did you know this game made over $1 billion? Okay, you probably knew that, but did you know it made even more than that? I got sent this article like 2 or 3 weeks ago or something and decided not to make this video 2 or 3 weeks ago cause... yeah. As of the 8th anniversary, Fire Emblem Heroes has earned around $1.3 billion in lifetime spending, which is... a lot of billions, actually. Okay, well, it's not a lot of billions, but 1 billion is already a lot of money, and another 3 million is even more than that, so that's a lot. It's a lot. It passed the $1 billion mark back in 2022, so like 3 years ago, which was already kind of nuts back then. And I think we all know this game hasn't been as strong in recent years, but it still made $300 million between 2022 and 2025, which, you know, that just tells me one thing. This game is never dying. Even 8 years in, this game is still making a good chunk of change. Of course, it's nowhere near the same heights as it once was, but I think that's to be expected for a game that's been running as long as Heroes has, although there are definitely exceptions. Apparently, a fraction of these types of games only make it to 3 years, let alone like 8, so they definitely did something right. Right? Or maybe wrong, depending on how you see things. That said, I think Three Houses took a game that probably would have lasted like 5 to 6 years and extended its life expectancy by like 50 years. Probably more if we get another game that blows up like Three Houses did. Say what you will about Faye, but I do think it's cool that it's still around, even if it's just for a constant stream of Fire Emblem related content, like new arts and voice lines and, you know, all that type of stuff. That's pretty cool, right? It's probably going to remain that way for a while too, because last year alone they made $67 million, which is pretty good. Although what I think is good and what IS thinks is good are like two different types of good, which makes me wonder if the amount of money they're making is good enough these days. I don't have any way of determining their operating costs, so this is going to be the segment of complete conjecture. Ooh, they have to make 11 to 12 units a month with 2 sets of voices, 1 Japanese, 1 English, 4 pieces of art for each character, 2 Resplendents a month that also gets new voices and art, which is essentially just a new unit, meet the hero stuff, coding whatever new junk into the game, a writing team, translations, and upkeep costs. Unless I missed something, I feel like that might just be everything? I probably missed 1 or 2 things. I don't know. Just let me know down below. There's not really a baseline to work off of for anything here, but it's a fair bit of stuff that gets added each month anyway. This game doesn't seem like it requires heavy upkeep costs considering its size, and the fact that a lot of the files in the game are made up of PNGs definitely keeps it manageable at least. And while it's not a lot of voice recordings for each unit, just some sentences and quotes and, I don't know, whatever this unit does, it is 2 sets of them for each character, so that probably does add up. And I would give an estimate for the writing team, but the quality of the writing speaks for itself, so yeah. Even if I were to overshoot and say it cost them $1 million a month to operate, which I don't think is the case, they're still making so much more than that in a single month, and honestly, if they were even more than $1 million, it could be $2 million, they'd probably still be fine. Granted, I don't think it's that much by any stretch of the imagination, but even if it was, they'd still be doing just fine, and yeah, this game makes a lot of money. Honestly, I think they would still keep Faye around, even if it was breaking even each year, or just maybe burning a slight amount, and I only say that because they kept Cypher around for so long, so they'd probably do it until they find another alternative. And for what it's worth, they also put out a survey recently, so it doesn't seem like they have any intent on stopping anytime soon. But even without it, the game makes so much money as is that I think the only reason they'd shut it down is by their own volition. In fact, there's a good chance this gacha made more revenue than the entirety of Fire Emblem as a series combined, and whether that's a good thing or not, I'll leave that up to you. And that's why it's time for everybody's favorite segment, Poorly Done Mathematics. Woo, yeah, woo, yeah, woo, yeah. Okay, so the entire series combined, according to Fandom, has sold around 20.5 million units across its main lines and spin-off titles. But because not every game costs the same amount of money, we gotta come up with an estimate per copy ourselves. All the Switch titles are $60, so that's easy enough, but then you get to the 3DS titles, and those are $40, except Revelations, which is both $20 and $100. But also, Shadows of Valentia had DLC, which costs more than the entirety of the base game, not to mention the DS titles that I don't think anyone would willingly pay any sum of money for, so let's call that $5. I think $5 is a good number. You let me know down below if $5 is good. I think the Game Boy Advance games were also around $40 as well, but I don't know if that was the case back then, but it's easier to make assumptions. Also, I forgot about the Tellius games, and those are like $700 each. Everyone also pirated Genealogy of the Holy War, so that's $0, and Codename Steam, which costs like like negative $40 because no one bought that. And when averaged together, you get around $60 per copy, which when multiplied by 20.5 million copies, you get $1.23 billion. Which is less than what Edelgard made on that one Valentine's alt recently. You listening aspiring game developers that are somehow in my audience, people like gacha. Or maybe they're forced to like it. Even IS got the memo, because look at how much it influenced Engage. Do you have anything to add, Lynn? Hi, it's me, Lynn. I love gambling. Do you like to gamble, Divine One? Lynn, I spent all our gold and bond fragments on bond rings trying to get Alwyn, and now the Somnial is going into foreclosure because we can't pay rent.
I am Sigurd.
No, but for real, Engage is pretty fun. I would recommend. It's kind of crazy even looking at the other Nintendo games they had that just never reached a similar level of revenue. Well, Super Mario Run was a one-time purchase ordeal, which definitely limited its revenue potential, but for $10, it was pretty decent. The other Mario games just kind of sucked though, but I think it's just because Mario doesn't really work for anything gacha. It's just really casual. Like if I wanted to play as Mario and Mario Kart Tour, do you know how much that costs? $20. Meanwhile, if I wanted to play as Byleth and Fire Emblem Heroes, all that would cost me is my dignity. I think I'd rather spend $20 on this.
Don't forget to oil up.
But also, Mario Kart Tour wasn't a very good game, so... It made more than Dragalia Lost at least, but people actually liked that game, or at least I think people did. It had Mega Man and Monster Hunter and Joker and stuff. Also, it had 2 Fire Emblem Heroes crossovers, which is pretty funny because I'm pretty sure the Dragalia devs put more effort into the Faye cast in one collaboration than the Faye devs had in over 8 years. Maybe that's why they shut it down. They also tried making another Mario gacha with Dr. Mario, but the best character was free for everybody, so there was literally no reason to ever spend money on the game. Dr. Bowser was free. I don't think Mario as a series has a collective cast of characters that people would actually spend money on, like Fire Emblem, despite the latter being so much more niche. I think you'll find like 10 times the amount of fans for somebody like Galzus than Dr. Dry Bowser. Nobody is spending money or summoning for this dude. Probably because he's dead. I think they probably could have made this work, but they needed a new hook instead of relying on Dr. Fire Mario over here. Maybe experiment with the drug capsules or something? I don't know. Like, imagine if they dropped a trailer for a new Doctor. Actually, did they ever do trailers for this game? Oh, apparently they did. But nobody actually cared. Okay, so imagine they released a new trailer for Dr. Donkey Kong. And yeah, you know, it's Donkey Kong, sure, yeah, great, whatever. But get this, instead of a regular capsule, he comes with ibuprofen. And then make him power creep Dr. Goomba Stacker or something. I don't know. Ooh, ibuprofen. They also had a player versus player mode, but I think even less people cared about that. I think this game was just doomed to fail from day one. And I remember playing this because they just had a bunch of puzzles, but like, I don't remember it being a lot of fun after a certain point, and I think some of them were just, I don't know if it was just me being stupid or you needed a better doctor to actually get through these. I don't remember. All I know is that it sucked, and that's why I shut down. They also had the Animal Crossing mobile game, but I know basically next to nothing about it. I'm like 99% sure it still had all the microtransaction junk that like every other game had besides Super Mario Run in it, but they did shut it down recently, and then they made it a one-time payment thing, so I think you could just kind of continue where you left off. I don't really know how it is, but all I could say is don't expect that to happen with Fire Emblem Heroes. There's no way that's happening. But yeah, kind of crazy. It's Fire Emblem, but it's also the most successful mobile game they've had. And, you know, they've had a fair bit of them, but like 1.3 billion is so kind of nuts. Also, I forgot that the first year of Heroes made like $283 million, which is also really crazy. I'm pretty sure that the last 3 years of Fire Emblem Heroes combined revenue was like roughly the same amount as the revenue made for the first year of Faye, which, yeah, it should tell you how successful it was early on. Although it also says that the first month of Faye made around $52.5 million, which I think might have been due to that one Hector guy from launch. I wonder how they're holding up. CYL4 also made like $18.6 million, which really goes to show how much Three Houses impacted the game. And honestly, I kind of find all these figures to be really, really interesting. There's probably more types of data all over the place. That said, it's most likely never going to reach those same heights again, but I think that's probably fine. The game's had a declining base for a good while, but the people that are left are fairly dedicated to the game for basically whatever reason. They may still like it. They might not. I think they at least have intentions on attempting to keep that group of players as satisfied as possible, but they probably should try and focus on the casual stuff as well. I talked about it before, but if they focus on some more PvE content, then it'd probably be a lot more approachable to just everybody. Not to mention just easing up on description stuff, because it's just really difficult to read for everybody. Still, I doubt it ever reached the same heights that it once did, or even around 3 Houses' level, but it's not like it couldn't go for another 10 plus years or something. Actually, that reminds me, how long can owls live for? Guys, I think we can make it for at least 28 years. Minimum, at least 28 years. Although I think that if and when Fire Emblem Heroes does shut down, they'll probably find some other avenue to pursue for the series, kind of like how Cypher was around before the likes of Heroes. And maybe I'm just misremembering, but I'm pretty sure Cypher wasn't profitable after a good while, but they still kept going with it regardless. That said, whatever direction they decide to go in down the line, I'm not really too worried about it, honestly, and I think most people would be cool with whatever they decide to do next. Unless it's Fire Emblem Heroes 2, I will not be starting my account from scratch. Never.